Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something called deep work. It's really crucial in our world today.
It really is. We mean that intense, laser-like focus. Working without distractions popping up every 2 minutes.
Exactly. And our mission here is to unpack why it's so valuable, and maybe more importantly for you listening, figure out how you can actually get more of it in your life.
Especially if you're trying to learn things quickly, avoid that feeling of being totally overwhelmed.
Right. Think of this as your fast track to understanding focus, maybe getting those aha moments everyone loves.
And what's interesting is that this isn't just like another productivity tip.
No, it feels deeper than that.
Yeah, our attention is pulled everywhere now. So understanding deep work, actually doing it, is like taking back control of your own brain power.
Okay, let's make this real with a story. Jason Ben. Heard about him.
The finance guy who learned to code.
That's the one. He was stuck doing tedious manual data stuff, realized Excel macros could help, but, well, he didn't know how to code. Big hurdle.
So what did he do?
Made a really bold move, quit his job, went home, buried himself in coding textbooks and, like, note cards.
Wow. No distractions, just pure focus.
Pure focus. And the key takeaway isn't just about learning code. It's about how that intense, uninterrupted learning can help you pick up skills fast, like really fast, and change things.
That really lines up with the author we looked at. Someone with a demanding job, writing a lot, but who deliberately set up their life to minimize distractions.
Like cutting out social media.
Yeah, or limiting it severely, prioritizing those focused blocks of time. And it allowed for really high-quality output without working crazy long hours.
Exactly. Ben went from constant interruptions to, like, 5 or more hours a day of disconnected, focused study.
5 hours, that's impressive.
You got through about 18 coding books in 6 months. Think about that.
Okay, so what happened?
The result. Landed a developer job in San Francisco. Salary jumped from around $40K to $100.
That's a huge leap.
Huge. And now he makes deep work a priority. Often gets hours done before the standard workday even kicks off. It just shows what that intensity can do.
It really does, and it connects to that idea you mentioned earlier, the personal bowling tower.
Yeah, like Carl Jung's retreat. Creating that space, physically or mentally, for deep thinking, for making something impactful.
And if you zoom out, look at the bigger economic picture, this ability to focus deeply isn't just, nice to have. It's becoming essential.
How so?
Well, think about what some economists call the great restructuring. Technology's automating loads of routine tasks, right? Or outsourcing them.
Okay, yeah, we see that happening.
So the core idea is, in this kind of automated economy, you need to be able to do complex thinking with technology, non-routine stuff. And deep work is how you build that skill.
Right, okay, let's unpack that. So who does well in this new economy?
Brynjolfsson and McAfee, they point to a few groups, people who can work really well with the smart machines.
Makes
Also, the superstars in any given field, the absolute top performers, and, well, people with capital.
So technology kind of amplifies things for those who can really master it.
Exactly. And mastering it often comes down to that deep work ability, like Nate Silver, the election forecaster guy.
Oh yeah, 538.
Right. His success isn't just asking Google who will win. He dives deep into complex data, uses sophisticated tools like Stata, needs to really understand things like SQL to pull out meaningful patterns.
And this really struck me. It's not just about knowing how to use the tool, is it?
No, not at all.
It's showing you can actually generate valuable, original insights from them, like Silver did with his election forecasts. They were remarkably accurate.
Precisely. So you see the clear value of really engaging deeply with these complex systems.
And kind of fundamentally, our brains are actually set up to learn this stuff best through intense focus.
That's the neurological basis. Deep work literally builds expertise. It's totally different from the surface level learning you get when your attention is all over the place.
Okay, so if deep work is so valuable, why is it so rare? Why does it feel so hard to achieve in, a typical workday?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there are trends working directly against it, like open office plans.
Oh yeah, Facebook, Square, lots of places went for that.
Yeah.
The idea was, more spontaneous collaboration.
Exactly. Serendipity. Right. Chance encounters sparking innovation.
But you have to wonder, what's the cost? How much actual focused, heads-down work gets sacrificed for those maybe-happens moments?
It's a real trade-off. And it's not just the office layout. Think about the pressure even on, say, experienced reporters at the New York Times.
What pressure?
To be constantly active on social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. It might help with engagement, sure, but it definitely fragments their attention, pulls them from the deeper stuff, the research, the writing.
It feels like there's this metric black hole.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the impact of deep thinking, of
Mhm.
creating something really substantial, it's hard to measure, right?
Mm.
Especially in the short term.
Yeah, it doesn't show up on a daily report easily.
So what happens? We focus on what we can see. The flood of emails answered, the meetings attended, the social media posts. We mistake all that busyness for actual productivity.
That's a key insight. We end up optimizing for the easily measured, shallow stuff just because the impact of the deep work is harder to see right away.
Exactly. There was that experiment Tom Cochran did at Atlantic Media. Showed the hidden cost of constant email.
Right, even a quick glance adds up massively across an organization. Time, money, it's a huge drain.
But it's easy to count emails sent, right? Not so easy to quantify the value of someone spending 3 focused hours cracking a really tough problem.
It's different in fields where the output is, well, more obvious, like a physicist like Richard Feynman and his research,
Right.
or Adam Grant's publication record.
Yeah, the value of their deep work is kind of undeniable.
But for a lot of us in knowledge work, without those clear metrics, there's a strong pull towards what the author calls the principle of least resistance. We just drift towards the easier, shallower tasks, the stuff that feels like we're doing something, making progress, even if it's not the most important work.
Which leads straight to busyness as proxy for productivity. Just looking busy becomes the goal.
Yeah, like that example of the reporter, Alyssa Rubin. Her Twitter presence might seem necessary, but is it actually the most productive use of her time and focus? Maybe not.
And underneath all this, there's what some call the cult of the internet, or technopoly, right?
Yeah.
Bill Postman, Evgeny Morozov.
Right. The idea that technology, especially the internet, just becomes the main way society organizes itself. It shapes how we think, what we value.
So just embracing everything internet-related becomes the default. Doing anything out, like prioritizing deep work over being constantly connected, seems weird, irrelevant almost.
That image you mentioned from the book really captures it, the like us on Facebook sticker on a refrigerated supply truck.
Yeah, it hits that point perfectly. This unquestioned belief that you have to be everywhere online, even if it doesn't really serve your main purpose.
Now, switching gears a bit. It's interesting that focusing on deep work isn't just about getting ahead economically. There are real benefits for our, mental well-being too.
Okay, tell me more.
Winifred Gallagher's experience is fascinating. During cancer treatment, she found this connection between where she put her attention and how she felt overall.
That's the one where she focused on the positive things, right? Despite being seriously ill.
Exactly. She made a conscious choice to focus on the good stuff and found it incredibly powerful. It makes you think.
What does it make you think?
Well, how a workday filled with shallow stuff, endless emails, notifications, shapes how you perceive your whole work life. It can make it feel stressful, trivial,
Yeah, like you're just putting out fires all day.
And Gallagher also noticed that when our minds are idle, they tend to drift towards negative stuff. Worries, problems.
So keeping your mind focused on something meaningful is actually protective.
It seems so. And this ties in really nicely with the idea of flow, Mahali's concept.
Oh yeah, being totally absorbed in something. Losing track of time.
Exactly that state. Intense concentration on something challenging, but it feels rewarding, satisfying in itself. Deep work basically sets the stage for flow. It creates the conditions for it.
Right. That feeling is amazing when it happens. Total immersion.
And it goes beyond just feeling good. Dravis and Kelly argue that craftsmanship, that deep engagement with a task for its own sake, can actually provide a source of meaning.
Especially now, maybe, when traditional sources of meaning feel less certain for some people.
Precisely. Finding value in the work itself. Through that focused dedication, it gives a sense of purpose.
Okay, so we've established it's valuable, it's rare, it's even good for us psychologically. The big question is, how do we actually do more of it?
Right. And the author gives us some practical rules. Rule number 1 is basically work deeply.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, the core idea is you have to intentionally design your environment and your schedule to support focus. Think about that concept of a eudaimonia machine.
That was the architectural design, right?
Mm-hmm.
With rooms getting progressively quieter.
Yeah, a space literally built to eliminate distractions, leading to these soundproof chambers for pure, focused work. It's an extreme example, but it shows the principle of intentional design.
So you need a plan, a philosophy for how you'll integrate it. You can't just hope deep work happens.
Exactly. And there are different ways to approach it, like the monastic approach.
Total isolation.
Pretty much, cutting out almost all shallow work. Neil Stephenson, the author, apparently avoids email entirely. Works well if your contributions are very distinct, individual.
Okay, what else?
Then there's bimodal. This is where you alternate big chunks of deep work time, then periods of more regular connected work.
Like Carl Jung going off to his tower.
Yes.
Or Adam Grant structuring his semesters.
Exactly. Grant does it on a semester scale, but also takes shorter, like week-long monastic breaks within the semester too. It allows for both deep creation and engaging with the world.
Makes sense. Then there's rhythmic.
Yeah, this is about consistency. Building a regular habit, like say, setting aside 9 to 11 every morning for deep work no matter what.
Good for building momentum, I guess. Making it automatic.
Very effective for that, especially in more standard jobs. And finally, journalistic.
Fitting it in whenever you can.
Kind of. It's about developing the ability to quickly switch into deep work mode whenever a gap opens up. Like Walter Isaacson apparently could, even with his demanding schedule. Takes practice, though.
Okay, so choose a philosophy. What's rule 2?
Embrace boredom.
Embrace boredom. That sounds counterintuitive.
It really does in our always-on world. But it's crucial for building your focus muscle. Think about Orthodox Jewish Talmud study. That's intense concentration training practiced over years.
Okay, like a mental discipline.
Exactly. And contrast that with the research from Clifford Nass. Remember him? Stanford researcher.
Vaguely. What does he find?
He found that chronic multitasking, constantly switching attention, actually damages your ability to filter out irrelevant stuff. Makes it harder to focus deeply later.
Wow. So constantly checking your phone is actually making you worse at concentrating.
That's the worrying implication. Which leads to the key insight here. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus.
Meaning?
Resist the urge to fill every tiny gap, every moment of boredom with stimulation. Don't just grab your phone because you're waiting in line for 2 minutes.
Let yourself be bored.
Yes. Schedule your internet time. Let your brain practice just being without constant input. It strengthens your focus.
Okay. What else under embracing boredom?
Productive meditation, using downtime like walking or commuting, not just to zone out, but to actively think deeply about a specific problem.
How do you structure that?
The author suggests reviewing the relevant variables of the problem in your head, then defining the very specific next step question you need to answer. Keep bringing your mind back to it when it wanders.
Like meditating, but on a problem.
Exactly. And even seemingly unrelated things like memory training. Daniel Kiloff found learning to memorize cards boosted his general concentration.
Interesting side effect.
Yeah.
Okay, rule 3.
This is a big one for many people. Quit social media.
Whoa. Okay. Strong advice.
Well, think about Baritone Thurston's experience, stepping away from it all. It highlighted just how much it can pull at our focus. We're becoming more aware of the downsides.
And the author criticizes the common approach to these tools, right? The any benefit approach.
Yeah, the flawed thinking that says, well, if there's any possible benefit, however small or unlikely, I should be on this platform.
Leads to being everywhere, doing everything, spreading yourself thin.
Exactly. Instead, he argues for a craftsman approach.
Like a craftsman choosing their tools carefully.
Precisely. He uses the analogy of Farmer Forrest Pritchard deciding about hay baler, not just asking, is it useful, but does it align with my core values, my main goals? What are the real costs and benefits?
So apply that to social media. Don't just ask if it could help. Ask if it significantly helps your most important goals, professional or personal.
Right. Does Twitter really help Michael Lewis sell more books in a way that justifies the time and attention cost? Probably not his main focus.
And this ties into the 80-20 rule.
The law of the vital few, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of your results come from a small fraction of your activities. So figure out what those high-impact activities are and be ruthless about cutting out the rest. All activities use up your limited time and attention.
Makes sense. Focus on what really moves the needle.
He even suggests trying a 30-day digital declutter. Just stop using all optional social media for a month. See what you actually miss, what value it truly provided, gain some perspective.
That sounds challenging, but potentially revealing.
And he brings up Arnold Bennett's old book, How to Live on 24 Hours a Day, a reminder to be intentional with your free time too, not just passively consuming whatever's easiest.
Okay, intentionality, got it. What's the final rule? Rule 4.
Drain the shallows.
Get rid of shallow work.
Well, Maybe not eliminate it entirely, some is usually necessary, but tame it. Reduce its dominance. Look at 37 Signals, the Basecamp folks.
What did they do?
They experimented with things like a 4-day work week, and giving employees a whole month just for deep, personal projects showed how much more is possible when you cut back the shallow stuff.
So how do you actually tame it?
One tactic is schedule every minute of your day.
Every minute. Seriously, isn't that super rigid?
It sounds it, but the goal isn't necessarily to stick to it perfectly. It's to become hyper-aware of where your time is actually going. People wildly underestimate things like how much TV they watch, for example. Scheduling forces you to confront it.
Ah, okay. It's an awareness tool first.
Right. And then try to quantify the depth of a task. Ask yourself this question. How long would it take to train a smart college grad with no special training in my field to do this task?
Okay, so editing a complex paper might take months of training.
Exactly. Creating a standard PowerPoint, maybe a few days, attending a routine planning meeting, maybe just brief instructions. It helps you see what's truly deep versus shallow.
And you should aim for a certain percentage.
Aim for a shallow work threshold. Maybe try to keep shallow stuff to, say, 30–50% of your time, a rough target.
What else helps drain the shallows?
Fixed schedule productivity. Decide when your workday ends, like 5:30 p.m., no exceptions. Then work backward from that deadline. It forces you to prioritize and be efficient.
Instead of just letting work expand to fill all available time.
Exactly. Which happens a lot, especially in fields like academia. And finally, tips for becoming hard to reach. Not unreachable, but less instantly accessible.
Like using email filters.
Yeah, make people work a bit harder to claim your attention. Also, do more work up front when you send a reply to emails. Anticipate the next question to reduce back and forth.
Be more thorough to save time later.
And don't feel obligated to reply to every single email, especially ones that are vague or don't really require your input. It's okay to let some go.
That takes discipline.
It does. The author shared his own story. Before starting a demanding professorship, he deliberately created constraints. No work at night, long lunch breaks, took on a book project, all to force himself to build strong, deep work habits before he needed them most.
So it's about intentionally building the muscle.
Absolutely.
Okay. So for you listening, especially if you're aiming for that efficient knowledge gain, those aha moments, hopefully this deep dive into deep work has really hit the mark.
What's really powerful, I think, is seeing how all these pieces fit together. Deep work isn't just a technique. It's a valuable, increasingly rare skill in this distracted world we live in.
And the benefits go way beyond just getting more done, don't they?
Totally. Learning better, being more productive, sure, but
Yeah.
also feeling more satisfied, more engaged with your work and life. It impacts well-being, too.
So I would really encourage you to just take a moment, think about your own work habits right now, and we pick one or two of these ideas we talked about and just experiment.
Yeah, even small changes can make a surprising difference in your ability to focus, achieve things, and honestly, just feel better about how you spend your time.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. In a world that seems to constantly confuse being busy with being productive, what could you achieve if you intentionally made space for focused, uninterrupted work?